Hello, my name is Georgie Kokosadze, and today I'll be doing my photographer presentation on photographer Diane Arbus. Diane Arbus was a groundbreaking American photographer known for her unsettling and intimate black and white portraits. She was born on March 14th, 1923 in New York City and died by suicide in 1971 at the age of 41. She grew up in an affluent Jewish family and studied photography with Alexei Brodovich at the New School for Social Research, after which she worked as a fashion photographer before diving deeper into her personal projects. At the age of 18, she met Alan Arbus, whom she would find herself marrying. Alan himself was an actor and a photographer. They had 2 children together and worked on a lot of fashion photography, but ultimately their marriage separately ended up in separation. Arbus started to gain attention as a photographer in the 1960s, and she became part of New York's avant-garde scene, which later on helped her gain attention for her portraiture. Her style was focused on intense, often uncomfortable realness. She rarely took flattering or idealized photographs. Diane photographed people that were considered at the edge of society at the time. Her subjects often included transgender people, people with disabilities, giants and dwarfs, carnival performers, and anybody that would be considered unique and unusual for the time. Throughout 1950s and 60s, Diane worked on a project called American Rights, Manners, and Customs. Her photographs were taken in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida, and California. With this project, she aimed to explore aspects of American culture through private or public rituals, contests, and festivals. Arbus is awarded a prestigious Guggenheim Fellowship in 1963 for her project American Rights, Manners, and Customs, which was later on renewed in 1966. To take photographs, Diane used a Rolleiflex twin lens reflex camera. My first image I want to talk about is Tattooed Men at a Carnival, 1970. So this is very Diane's signature style and theme. She loved to go to carnivals. This one is most likely in Maryland, and she loved to document people that were considered less socially accepted. During 1970s, it was not very usual to see somebody covered head to toe with tattoos. But you can see this guy, he is standing proudly and he's just directly staring into the camera. And Diane wanted to show the world that, hey, anybody could have tattoos. This is completely normal. This is what people are like. Another image I want to talk about is Child with a Toy Hand Grenade. Central Park, New York, 1962. This image shocked me a little bit when I first saw it because I immediately thought this would not be possible in today's world. For an instance, if anybody came out with a weapon that looked this real, the cops immediately would be called and there would be much more panic and hysteria. But at that time, the kid has a very innocent look on his face. But if we did not know from this picture that it was a toy grenade, to me it looks like a real hand grenade and could possibly cause some harm. So I thought this picture was interesting in a way that it would not be able to happen now. Third image I found it interesting is Rocks on Wheels, Disneyland 1962. And I recently went to visit Disneyland and it didn't even cross my mind where these rocks might have came from. And to see a picture from Diane that shows the whole process and documents how these rocks were actually moved is a really, really interesting little picture. Although it's a little different from her style of portraits and what she usually does, I thought this was a unique picture that you do not see every day. My fourth image I chose was teenage couple on Hudson Street, NYC, 1962. And I thought this image was interesting because it is capturing the intimate, real human moments that reveal deeper truths about us. You can see that the boy is standing very, proud, and he has his arm over his girl. And his girl looks a little shy, more on the feminine side. But this image to me shows the awkwardness of wanting to fit in and look grown, but appearing young and vulnerable, and just your age, just because of solely how old you guys actually are. No matter how you try to make yourself, you will always, at the end of the day, there will be signs that tell who you really are. So I thought this was an interesting image in a way that it shows vulnerability and intimate human relations. For my fifth image, I chose Two Ladies at the Automat, NYC, 1966. This image is staged, but it's also unstaged, as these ladies obviously know that Diane is over there taking a picture, but I do not think that Diane told them, oh, make this sort of a face, or smile, or do this. It's just their natural expressions, and you can see how even though they are together in this place, they both have like their own expression on their face, and it's like they're together but not really, you know. Their face to me shows stillness, and this image is also interesting because it shows that women were going out more, dressing up more, hanging out with their other women friends, and they could just be now seen out and about in everyday public places. Sixth image I chose was Muscle Man in his dressing room with trophy, which was taken in Brooklyn, New York in 1962. And this is also one of Diane's themes, documenting extraordinary people. To me, this is more of a proud moment. It shows his masculinity, performance, but also vulnerability. And I say this because his body and his muscles, physically, he looks very strong and powerful, but for some reason in this dim lighting and the lights just hitting from the mirrors and just the overall setting of this place kind of gives his face more of a vulnerable vibe, and not very, although the body is physically powerful, his face shows me otherwise, you know. Number 7 is another one of Diane's themes, and the image is titled A Jewish Giant at Home with His Parents in Bronx, New York, 1970. I want to say this is one of the people that she met during the Coney Island carnivals, because that's what she was very big into and she used to attend a lot. So I want to say they met each other there, and Diane just ended up following him home, or just wanting to get to know him more and document him more. And to me, this image shows that no matter how outside of a norm you might be considered for the society, no matter how different you might be from them, there's still a home, and there's still somebody that cares about you. In this case, for this giant, it's his parents, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. For example, it could just be Diane. You could be extraordinary, and Diane is like, I want to go out and photograph this person, get to know them a little more. So to me, this image just shows you can be extraordinary, but you always fit in somewhere, you know. Eighth picture I want to talk about, going with another one of her themes, is Mexican dwarf in his hotel room, NYC, taken in 1970. At the time, dwarfism was not very known and common, and it brought with it a bunch of curiosity. And Diane photographing this dwarf, it's not in a way to humor or impress people, but it's more of just to show there's people like this out there. You see this dwarf, and he has this huge bed behind him, and his hand is on this huge like thing, and you just kind of get a sense of comparison of him and what's around him and what he might look like. So she just also wanted to show that this was normal, this type of people existed, and they should be more common and not looked at with this eye of curiosity. Number 9 image I want to talk about is identical twins, Roselle, New Jersey, 1966. And at the time, twins was also not very documented, and it was sort of seen as a very special thing, where now we've kind of gotten more used to it. But in this image, I found it interesting because the twins are very, very similar. They're identical. What they're wearing is very similar. But at the end of the day, when I look at their face, I could sense individuality. One girl to the right, she has more of a smiley and giggly face. She looks more cheerful. And the girl on the left, she has more of a serious tone, and it just shows me everybody, even though we might be the same or we might be different, everybody expresses themselves in a different way. And my 10th image that I want to talk about is family of 6 at a nudist camp, taken in 1963. And this just showed me the norm of how families lived in America back then, and the expression of freedom that was going on, and just overall vulnerability of families or American people in very domestic and public settings. So I just thought it was another interesting image of hers. And for the rest of my images that I found interesting and just wanted to show you, I'm gonna scroll through them, give you a few seconds on each. Questions I have about this presentation and from this presentation are: how did Diane's photographs challenge traditional ideas at the time? And question number 2 I have is: how does the intimacy and realness in Diane's portraits contribute to the viewer's emotional response? Do you think it's ethical to photograph people's hardships? So I'm gonna leave you guys with these questions to think about. And that was all for today. Thank you so much. Bye bye.